Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, I saw a video by Tim Black today. Tim Black seemed to be annoyed by something that David Weigel wrote. Now, I was interested in this because I know who Dave Weigel is. He's a reporter at the Washington Post. Now, the reason I know Dave Weigel is because of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore has been scornful of Dave Weigel. It is some of the funniest shit you'd ever see in your life. Dave Weigel has a mustache. It's like a porn star mustache. And Jimmy Dore jokes it like nobody's business. Now, I thought I was going to get the joke, Dave Weigel, because of how Tim's video went. I see nothing wrong with this article. This article seems perfectly rational to me. Now, it is slightly strange because it's like it's almost as if he's visiting a faraway land and he's talking to the natives, and he takes that information back somewhere else to show his own brethren. Like, that's the perspective of it. It's getting all of these people who he considered to be on the left, the actual left, the real left, the only left, I would argue, the only left. But to get reports from these people on, hey, what are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? You guys all the way over there on the fringe, what are you thinking about? We're thinking that you guys are spending too much time on this Russian nonsense. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. And so he would go and get more stories from different people. Glen Greenwald, Jimmy Dore is on this list. Now, it seemed Tim was mostly annoyed by the Jimmy Dore one. But I didn't see anything wrong with it personally. Now, if I'm wrong, write it in the bottom. I just didn't see it. I read it twice. It just sounds like he was giving a report. This is what's taking place on the far left, at least the far left from his perspective. Now, each person, for the most part, is just making a different point and saying they're wasting time on this Russian nonsense. There are other things that they need to be spending their time with. And not just wasting time on this Russian nonsense. They're trying to subvert democracy. Now, each person has a different thing that they're charging. So, Glen Greenwald is kind of making this point. You guys are literally trying to topple the president of the United States. This Russian nonsense, in collusion with the media, for the most part, are going after Trump relentlessly with this Russia thing, one thing after the next. But they don't have any smoking gun, and yet that hasn't stopped them from doing this for the past X number of weeks. The media has a dog in this hunt. They don't like Trump. He's not part of their cast. For the most part, you've understood that at the point where the election was like, holy shit, he could win, that coverage changed overnight. It changed on a dime. They don't like Trump. Trump has bashed the media left and right. And so are you telling me that the guy that bashed the media has been calling it fake news, they're going to be supportive of that guy? No, they're going to go after that guy. So you can kind of see this level of collusion that's just kind of organically formed between the Democratic Party and the media establishment aimed directly at Trump. Here's the problem. Progressives don't believe it. Republicans don't believe it. The only people who believe it are Democrats. You're the only people who believe it. You're talking to yourselves. You're talking to yourselves. You have Maxine Waters losing her goddamn mind outside of Congress, screaming, talking about they want to impeach the president. Impeach him over what? You have no evidence. You have no evidence. You don't have anything to impeach him on. How are you screaming about impeachment? You know what? What about... Yeah. She might have been in Congress. When the president killed 1 million Iraqis, 1 million innocent Iraqis, that wasn't an impeachable offense? Is that what you're telling me? You're willing to push Tracy out the way. No, Tracy, she didn't push you. Stop being a baby. Stop whining. Be a man. Be a reporter. But she did put her hands on him to knock him out the way. But are you telling me that you get that fired up, like you're literally up there screaming at the top of your lungs, foaming at the mouth, red baiting, talking about you're going to impeach the president? You firmly believe it that much? This tie between Russia and and Trump. When the other president had tangibly killed 1 million Iraqis, how did that not warrant impeachment? He lied this country into a war. Literally lied this country into a war. And as a result, that idiot with that sniveling coward, war criminals, both of them, Tony Blair, went into another country and murdered 1 million people on the pretense of weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. They didn't know it exists. And look, this is one of those things where Al Sharpton, I think he was on the debate stage, he was like, if you say they had weapons, if you say you knew they had weapons, and if you go to that country and you kill all those people and they don't have weapons, that sounds like a lie. It sounds like a lie. I just don't understand how murdering those people is okay, but him colluding with Russia, mind you, you have no evidence that he colluded with Russia. And even if you guys find that Russia hacked us, even if you find that, what does that have to do with Trump? What on earth does that have to do with Trump? The very fact that Russia hacking has nothing to do with Trump colluding with them to do that hacking. You understand that, right? I'm not even conceding that they were hacking. I'm just saying your theory of the case still doesn't necessarily put Trump in the line of fire. If I am Vladimir Putin, if it was me, and look, I don't believe this Russian nonsense at all. I don't believe it. But let's say your theory of the case is right. If I am Vladimir Putin, I don't need to talk to Trump to do this. If you're paying attention to Russia, to elections, one person, Hillary Clinton, would have started a nuclear war. The other person wanted to be conciliatory. If I wanted to influence an election, do I really need to talk to Donald Trump to influence the election? Like, meaning, do I really need to make that collusion, or am I just going to do it? You just do it. You just do it. There's no reason to talk to Trump about it. Why would you talk to Trump? He's being conciliatory. He's putting this stuff in the media of what he wants to be with regards to Russia. What else do you need? You don't need to go into a back room and have a conversation with him. That's fucking insane. It's not necessary. And again, I'm not even conceding it. I'm just saying their theory of the case still doesn't necessarily tie Trump to the events or to the hacking itself. This is aggravating to me. It's almost like you have a tangible situation where George Bush is out there finger painting, selling books, painting. They let him walk after murdering all those people. We're in country after country after country as a result of what George Bush did in that office. And he walks. He's not dragged before the Hague. The international community isn't bitching about it. Our country, Maxine Waters, those guys, those congressmen who are now clamoring about Russia and this red fit hysteria, they weren't clamoring then when that guy killed 1 million people. They weren't clamoring then. And there's this other thing that bugs the shit out of me. Hypocrisy. Even if you're going to make a case that Russia hacked us, you know, when you went into Iraq and you murdered all those people and toppled the government, that's more than hacking. That's worse than hacking. When you went into Libya for Gaddafi and murdered all those people, that's worse than hacking. When you're paying terrorists to undermine the Syrian government, that is worse than hacking. You get that, right? When you topple the Iranian government and put in a dictator, a strongman, that's worse than hacking. Newsflash, you have no ground to stand on when you try to topple Fidel Castro. Now, you failed on that one. Castro gets help from Russia, who puts missiles in Cuba. This precipitates the Cuban Missile Crisis, but understand what precipitated was the United States being aggressive towards another country. Again. You've intervened in one country after another around the world. How are you making this conversation? How are you having this argument? How are you guys in this red fit hysteria talking about Russia hacked you? Where's your legitimacy in making this case? I mean, it's breathtaking hypocrisy here. It's absolutely breathtaking. No, the president murdered 1 million people. He's okay. He's fucking awesome. This guy, no, we don't have a link tying Trump to Russia. We don't have that link. But we're going to red bait, we're going to scream at the top of our lungs, and we're going to say that we want him out of office in order to put Pence, theocrat Mike Pence, in that office. That's their objective. That is fucking ridiculous. That is ridiculous. You guys are absurd. You guys are absolutely absurd. Then Glen Greenwald is absolutely right on this point. But it goes beyond that. It's also this level of trying to delegitimize Trump. They're trying to delegitimize him. You didn't win that office fairly. You didn't win that office. You don't deserve to be in that seat. Russia helped put you in that particular office. It's a pretty self-serving argument as an opposition team. And yet, if you say, hey, produce the evidence that shows that Trump colluded with Russia to hack the election, it is non-existent. It's non-existent. They have bupkis. All of this is them puffing smoke, huffing and puffing, huffing and puffing. And it lacks a certain level of credibility since they didn't. I just don't understand how you have it. You kill 1 million people and you walk. I just don't get it. You lied the country into a war. You smashed another government. Yes, you had other world power, or a few world powers, or at the very least, one lapdog helping you do it. But you destroyed another country. Literally destroyed another country. Put that shit in context. This angers me. This absolutely angers me. The people of this country made a decision to put Trump in that office. I don't like the decision, but I didn't like the decision for putting Hillary Clinton in that office either. So I didn't have a dog in this hunt. Yes, it's a little breathtaking for them putting Trump in office, but ultimately they made a choice to do that. Now you're going to take action based on sketchy evidence at best to try to impeach the president, to get him out that office, even though the American people put him in that office. What the Democratic Party is hoping is twofold. They want to tie him down. Have you ever heard this concept called a pin in chess? Like, so, let's say you have a knight. Let's say somebody puts a bishop on that knight. Now, and also let's say that there's a queen behind the knight. Now, queen is worth like 9 points. It's worth a lot. The knight is worth 3. But if the knight moves, it's going to kill the queen. If you lose your queen, you're probably going to lose that game. Meaning the knight can't move. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter what takes place. That knight can't move. It's a pin. It's a pain in the ass. Usually it's just a nuisance, but sometimes it can be pretty deadly. Part of this Russia narrative is to tie Trump down. Even if we can't impeach you, even if we can't get just enough, even if we can't figure something out in order to get you out that office, which is stupid in its face because Mike Pence is worse. But even if we can't get you out that office, at the very least we could try to constrain you in that office. Meaning, how much time are you going to have to devote to other things if you're dealing with continuous lawsuits or continuous attacks of your legitimacy? And that the fact that there may be something going on between you and Russia. This is political strategy. There's no there. I don't know if these people believe it or not, but it's kind of a moot point on whether they believe it or not. It's fomenting resentment with another nuclear power nation. In fomenting this particular resentment, it's used as a political expedience, meaning it's something that's contrived. It was contrived by Hillary Clinton. Now, I don't know if Weigel knows that, but the book Shattered has. They contrived that 24 hours after the election. I guess my point, I guess my point is this. All of this stuff, for the most part, this stuff is political strategy. Like, it's hard to know whether or not these people actually believe the stuff they're saying because, as I said, there's no link. But do they have an incentive to say it? Yes. If it constrains your political opponent, will you say that? Will you scream at the top of your lungs about those things? Yes. Yes, you probably would. You probably would. Now, the other complaints are, well, wait a minute. You guys aren't talking about healthcare. You're not talking about education. You're not talking about anything. You're just talking about Russia. What about all these other things? Now, This argument is the argument I made. I made both of these arguments. And the argument is right. Again, the argument is right. It's amazing to me that Dave and Weigel have to come to the left in order to get actual information about what the hell is going on. That's amazing. It's like he's coming here saying, hey, what do you think about this? And you give him the information. Now, the information that's being put here by Greenwald is dead on. The information that's put on by the other person is also dead on. The Democrats aren't talking about the other stuff. They're philosophically failed at their point. They failed at their point. And in failing at their point, the public punished them by taking away each and every power center that they had in this country, all levels of government. And they deserved it. They deserved it. They didn't live up to their expectation and their things that they were supposed to do. You had a party who had the philosophical point, at least in the capitalistic system, to be a release valve, to essentially deaden the edges or the hard edges of capitalism by putting in these small reforms to try to help the population. Well, at the point where they said, screw that, we're going to get paid, we're going to suck the tit of the plutocrats, just like the Republicans are sucking the tit of the plutocrats. Once they said that, the public didn't matter anymore. These are two plutocrats having a conversation. It doesn't include the rest of us. Once that happened, that completely philosophically neutered them in regards to their actual role in this particular country. And in no way should you give your vote. It's like, are you going to pay somebody who didn't do the job? This isn't the pizza I ordered, but here's the money. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. You shouldn't do that. The problem is, what they're expecting is Trump's ratings are going to be so low that ultimately they don't have to change. That they can just stand in the spot and say, look, if we just wait for 4 years, we can put a shill up. Cory Booker type. We can put Cory Booker up. And the people are going to be so aghast at Trump that they're just going to go to Booker. They're not going to care. Anybody but Trump. That's the thought. I guarantee you that's the thought. And the reason why I say that is because if you wanted to show that you wanted to make a change, you would put up Ellison. Ellison is not all that progressive, but you would put up Ellison. Instead, they put up Perez. You can put that as almost as an exclamation point, almost a go fuck yourself, which is essentially a statement that is sent. There's no point in changing, at least from their standpoint. We're getting a huge amount of money. We've been doing this for the past 30 years. We're fucking awesome. Those people, they'll change. They'll come back to us once they realize how bad Trump is. We just need to wait it out. Weather the storm. Once we weather the storm, they'll come back to us. They may not love us, but they're going to hate them. They'll come back. We don't have to change. Once you take that level of logic, there's a logic to it. There's a logic to it. I mean, the rest of the population, who knows that the rest of the population is taking this? Clearly, they don't like Trump. But I guarantee you this, regardless of them not liking him, they will be hell to pay if Democrats try to take him out that office. There's one thing for somebody to say, I don't particularly like the guy. There's another thing for them to say, whoa, they're going beyond the pale in regards to impeaching him on this little shit about Russia that they haven't made a link on. I don't even understand why they're having this conversation, to be honest. Until you have something substantial, you should not be coming out your mouth talking about you're going to impeach him. You shouldn't. Again, and I make the point, if killing 1 million Iraqis didn't warrant impeachment, how the hell is anything you're talking about right now warrant impeachment? And there's another particular point to this. Like I said, one of these people made this point of, they're not talking about healthcare, they're not talking about any of that stuff. Now, Sanders, to his credit, is talking about Russia also. He's a company man. He's a sheepdog. But he's also trying to throw out, hey, we need to we need to have single-payer healthcare. And he's throwing out these other things. Things essentially lull people back into the Democratic Party. He's making this point that you have to walk and chew gum at the same time. I have to be honest. I don't like this because ultimately Sanders, I expect a certain level of moral integrity from him. That's all. That's all. He took that line to Russia right off the bat. He essentially played company man right off the bat. He's a democratic socialist who's supposed to be an independent, and yet they made a section for him to go in and sheepdog people back into the party. Go out, Bernie, and get those people back into this party. Those people need to be Democrats. What are you getting me for? Nothing. Just get those people back into the party. They can't even give him single-payer health care. He doesn't even get single-payer health care. And yet they want him to go get people back into the party. So I'm not going to read Sheepdog's one. One of the ones that's somewhat is funny to me, and that the Young Turks should absolutely hate. But even though I think David Weigel thought this was a compliment. Since the election, the Young Turks Network's flagship show has dutifully covered the Russia story and Trump disbelieving responses to it. But on the show, host Jimmy Dore has lit into Democrats for blaming hackers for their loss, raising doubts about the credibility of the intelligence agencies, and seeing the heavy hand of war hawks hyping the Russia connection to deep state labs Europe and the Middle East. Sheridan has turned the story into hard-hit communities, but has also chided Democrats for Russia talk. The breathless, hysterical marching among establishment Democrats isn't much different than Republican cries over fake controversies like Benghazi, Sheridan wrote in an email today. I've seen zero concrete, indisputable evidence that the Russian government or government-sponsored hackers penetrated the DNC or Clinton's campaign system. Third-party cybersecurity firms hired by DNC, anonymous intelligence officials, and neocons on cable news huffing and puffing is not evidence that Russia hacked the election. For some Democrats, focus carries whiffs of conspiracy thinking. Now, I'm not going to read that part, but Jordan is damn right. He is damn right. Literally, damn right. And so is Jimmy Dore. Both of them are. Essentially, you guys are screaming at the top of your lungs about something that you can't prove exists. You can't prove it. You have no smoking gun evidence to say this is the case. You have a bunch of connections of people who are near Trump or, here are connections in there. It amazes me that the Trump Russian connections are a big deal. Democrat Russian connections don't matter. I don't get this double standard. It's like they're making this shit up as they go along. They're finding anything to tar him with, because understand, they don't have power legislatively to do it. Meaning, they can't challenge him in typical ways. It's not a process where they can go into Congress and challenge any of the bills that Republicans want to push through. The only way they can challenge him is in this kind of, Russia. They're doing a narrative of sorts. Now, here's the catch. For the people who are saying the Democrats aren't talking about healthcare, childcare, and all this other stuff, isn't it slightly amazing that they're able to scream with this level of intensity about this nonsense, and yet the philosophical basis of the party, it's supposed to be this FDR type thing. Yeah, they don't scream about that. That doesn't come up. I've never heard them scream this much about anything. That when they were in the Obama administration, they had absolute power over Congress and the White House. I didn't hear them screaming about anything like this. Nothing. So essentially, they can scream when they want to about stuff that's nonsensical, but stuff that actually deals with the actual constituents in their particular communities. No, that's too much to ask. Russia is important, but that's too much to ask. Now, there is a really good one that needs to be read, because it makes a damn good point. Now, this says, to me, it bodes poorly for the future. I'm afraid we're going to make the same mistakes the Italian center and left made when fighting Silvio Berlusconi, said Giscobin Sunacra, We want to focus on the man and his odious personality and try to use measures to delegitimize him through mostly the press and the courts. Didn't work then, don't see it working now. The thing is, though, Trump's approval rating has taken a shot. It has taken a hit. Does that necessarily translate into them losing to the Democrat? Democrats' poll ratings are around the same. Now, at the point where there's a candidate that comes up, then yes, that candidate for the most part is going to be measured to some degree, but the headwind that the candidate is going to take on is the Democratic Party. Now, if the public looks at this and says this is a comparison between the two, go from there. I would wager the public is going to be so dejected from this particular contest that it's going to end up being like Trump and Hillary in the last one. Meaning people are like, I don't like either one of these candidates. That's my suspicion. That's my suspicion. If they put up some kind of corporate shield, then yes, that's my suspicion of what's going to take place. And yes, I do think Donald Trump can probably beat a corporate shield Democrat. I honestly do. I really do. He already beat one. Why wouldn't he necessarily be able to beat the other? And I know Democrats are thinking to themselves, this guy is so odious. The only thing we have to do is just wait. That may be true, but understand, you lost using this exact same strategy. Meaning, we're going to focus on other stuff that doesn't necessarily actually affect the people's wallets. Who the people are. Meaning, how am I going to positively affect the decision space for the individuals who are in my constituency? That's off the table. That's off the table. They're just screaming about Russia. I don't think this article by Dave Weigel is bad. It just seems like he's reporting this is what's taking place on the far right. It's just funny to me that this is what's taking place on the far right, and he's taking that information to show it to somebody like, hey, this is what they're talking about. This is what we're talking about. It is what we're talking about. And I'd argue that the narrative that he's getting here is the honest narrative. Most of the stuff I agree with, and most of the stuff is true. Like I said, you're interacting in a political space. These people are doing things for political reasons. I don't know how many of them believe this Russia narrative. That Russia narrative started 24 hours after the election, so it makes me feel they're being somewhat disingenuous and bringing up this Russia talk. But either way, it's politics. Meaning these guys are going to be craven in the things that they're doing to accrue power. It's a game space. You look at it from the standpoint of chess. Why would they do that with the Russia thing when they don't necessarily have a smoking gun? Does it benefit the party to try to tar the other party? Yes. Does it benefit the party to try to restrict the actions of the other party, knowing that the party only has 4 years in that office? The answer, of course, is yes. What the Democrats are doing can be purely explained through that model of thinking in that sense. It makes perfect sense, again, under that particular model. Now, mainstream media goes with the model of these guys really care about the Russia hacking. They don't look at it from the standpoint of these guys are politicians that are craven to have certain things that they're trying to accomplish. They just look at these guys on face value at what they're saying. I'm always amazed at how stupid it comes across. It aggravates me because I'm looking at them like, I can't believe that this is what they feed the American public. And I can't believe that this is what the American public consumes. That's terrifying. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. But this is what counts to news. This is what counts for news. So, the Weigel thing doesn't bother me. I have to be honest, this doesn't bother me. I would say check out the Jimmy Dore videos on it. It is absolutely hilarious. Jimmy Dore is scathing in regards to Weigel. He jokes the shit out of him. I wanted to have jokes on the mustache and all that, but I'm giving him a pass. This article seems okay to me. It just seems like he's referencing the things that took place, or that's taking place right now on the left. This is the current depiction of the left. It's like this is the cornucopia of what's taking place. And of course, you're going to have people who are more into the conspiracy camp, or I'm not going to say conspiracy camp. I'm going to say this camp of, they just want to have a war in that sense because a war would allow them to gain, profits from weapon manufacturers and stuff like that. You can see the incentive structure built into it. Maybe that's pretty damn craven. But understand, those people don't get touched. George Bush killed 1 million people, started 2 wars that has inflamed the Middle East. He's at home painting in his mansion. Those people don't get touched. because those people don't get touched. Those people are less empathetic in regards to what takes place to actual people by the events that they do. That's a problem. I'm just saying, the reason why they're willing to do this stuff is because it doesn't affect them in that way. It may affect them politically, but ultimately, even if you're affected politically, at the end of the day, you go home to your mansion and start painting, like George Bush, a murderer of 1 million people. So I'll leave it at that. I'm giving Weigel a pass. This article seems fine to me. So, alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.